What is going on, guys? Welcome to the 100% Chelsea podcast. Yes, we finally jumped on the bandwagon. You know, solid steps of True Geordie, Jack Reeve at TNC,
Zerka.
Robbie, Zerka, like so many other people on YouTube. Podcasts seem to be making a comeback. So we thought, why not jump on the bandwagon? You know, it's not like we're definitely running out of ideas for content. Yeah. No, it's definitely not that. I mean, definitely a new thing which we can add in. Hopefully you guys will enjoy. But before we start, obviously, let's be honest. The 100% Chelsea podcast.
It doesn't have the best ring to it.
No, it's a bit dire, isn't it?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, so this is where we want you guys to come in. In the comment section, please leave all your ideas for names of a podcast, for a Chelsea podcast. Now, we will pick the best 5 or 3 or 4 maybe. How many can you put in a vote? Put 5 in a vote, can you?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll pick the best 5 that we feel are the best, and then in the next podcast we will put it in a poll card, and you guys can decide the name of the 100% Chelsea podcast. But anyway, obviously the idea of this is
they can also, if you thumbs up your favourite ones as well, you can help us decide narrow it down as well. So vote for your favourite one down in the comments by thumbsing it up, and obviously we'll be able to see it a lot easier.
Definitely.
As well.
Let us know down in the comment section below, like Brandon's saying, thumbs it up, all that sort of stuff. But obviously, this as a podcast, they're all over an hour long normally, right?
Around about, yeah.
So you have to deal with us talking for an hour. I mean, you've dealt with me talking for an hour for a couple of years now.
It's still probably going to be Louis talking for an hour because, you know, Louis is very overpowering when he's talking. So
it's because I'm loud, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm just, I'm very opinionated. But, yeah, obviously, as you can see, joined by my co-host, my lovely co-host, Brandon. More Sports, in case you know. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to his channel. Make sure you subscribe to mine as well. Weekly vlog will be out on Monday. But anyway, obviously joined by Brandon. Do you want to give them the layout of what the podcast will be?
I do. So, obviously, like Louis said, it'll be around about an hour long. He touched slightly on the frequency as well. So it is a bi-monthly series to start with. If you guys are enjoying it and you want to see it more often, obviously let us know in other comments on other videos as well. Definitely. And especially on this one. And we'll try and bring it to you as frequently as we can. We're not going to, commit to a date or a time frame at the moment, apart from the bi-monthly series, because that works for both of us.
Yeah.
And we're obviously, circumstances, we haven't got the best facilities at the moment, but going forward we'll be improving our backdrop and everything like that. And hopefully, we will be getting guests on the show, and they could be some of you as well.
Definitely.
So if you leave your comments and you're an active subscriber, you're liking all the videos, you're getting at us on Twitter.
And you're based in London.
Or you're willing to travel a long, long way. If you don't, then, you could definitely appear on the podcast. But, so, I've just taken about 2 minutes to describe everything else, really. But apart from the actual podcast, but what we're going to do, we're going to review the month that we've just had. So every month we will review the games that we've played, any news that's going on, all the big updates to do with the club. Then we're going to preview the next month of games, and again, more news if there's any outlined. We'll do a transfer review at the moment, because obviously we're in transfer window period time, and probably next month as well, because it will be just after the transfer window finishes, so probably cover it then, and obviously in January as well. And then any big news that is kind of slightly related to Chelsea, or if not, that is just absolutely insane that we cannot just miss talking about. So, for example, Neymar's
ridiculous money move.
I mean, I don't even know what to call it. Neymar's cry for help.
Cry for help?
He needs help. If he's willing to buy his own contract out for 222 million euros, the bloke needs help.
Mentally, or are you talking...
Mentally.
Yeah.
He has gone from probably the best club in the world, arguably, to a money-grabbing club.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's all for that. He's getting like 515k a week.
I want 515k
after tax. He gets $3,000 an hour.
I want £3,000 an hour.
I'd like £3 an hour. That would be a good start.
No, because I don't get paid £3 an hour. I don't get paid full stop for this. But anyway, let's get straight into talking about the stuff. Obviously, with this being a brand new podcast as well, there will be a few teething problems because I've never sat in front of a camera to do a podcast ever. Neither has Brandon. Well, actually, I don't know if Brandon has.
No, I haven't, actually. No.
So, obviously, for example, right now, I'm looking at the camera and I'm not sure. So, obviously, because I'm a bit bigger than Brandon, when I set it up, it was set for him. But if we're leaning forward, I think, Brandon, could you quickly check the camera and see if it's level?
Sure.
Let's do this. And I will continue to talk about my brand new hat that I bought from JD Sports. It's definitely not a plug.
You're looking okay.
I'm looking okay. You're sick. Okay, well, that's it now. That's pretty much as best it will get for me. I mean, literally my only weapon of choice when it comes to talking to the opposite sex or talking to people in general is my devilishly good way of being able to talk. But other than that, I'm completely screwed. So, let's get straight into the podcast rather than talking about me, even though I do love to talk about myself.
Yeah, should we jump into pre-season?
Let's jump straight into pre-season. Go on.
And let's review Chelsea's pre-season, shall we?
Tell me what happened, Brandon.
So, I'll tell you what happened. We had our first official pre-season game behind closed doors against Fulham. It was an 8-2 victory, so it was very, very convincing and looked very, very promising. Michy Batshuayi got 2 goals. Willian got a hat-trick, which
very nice.
Which is very odd. Remy, I didn't know he still existed. He got 2. One of those was a penalty, and Azpilicueta also scored a penalty. Again, pretty odd choice in someone having a penalty, but he scored it. So a convincing win. That was also the day that Timon Bakayoko signed. So a relatively big day for the new signing to watch such a convincing game.
The meerkat from the Lion King. From
Endure the Warthog.
Oh, you're funny. That's original. Well, technically, if that makes sense, because obviously I'm big and you're quite slender. You're quite skinny, basically.
Should we call it the Timon and Pumbaa podcast?
No, because 1, you'll probably infringe on copyright. 2, I know that's very boring. 2, I don't exactly want to be known as Pumbaa.
That's hashtag Louis Pumbaa or Pumbaa Louis or something like that in the comments below.
Thanks, Brandon. I mean, that makes me feel a hell of a lot better.
And also on Twitter, tweet him as well. Just basically heckle him. Heckle him.
Don't heckle me. Don't do it. Can you just tell me about the rest of the games, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, you brought up Timon, so...
Yeah, well, I just raising what I thought would be an unnecessarily good point.
It wasn't necessary.
It's the same as the bloke from The Lion King.
It wasn't necessary at all.
Well, I'm quite unnecessary. You know what? Get on with it, mate. Just do it.
Obviously, the next game we played was against Arsenal in Beijing. It was our first and only game in Beijing before we moved on to Singapore. Obviously, we won 3-0, which was very convincing, and hopefully we can have a repeat of that on Sunday.
That's only hope.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Again, Michy Batshuayi with another 2 in that game, and Willian with another 1. And I've got to just praise Michy Batshuayi there because his second goal was unbelievable.
It was.
What a finish. Goal. And what a pre-season he's had, by the way. I'd just like to, just admire how far he's come in the past few months. Towards the end of the season, he got a few more games and he got a few more minutes.
He won us the league.
And he won us the league. And I think over the pre-season period, he's bulked up a lot. He's gotten a lot more physical. He looks a lot more up for it. He looks like he's adapted to the way that Conte plays. He looks like a Conte striker.
Yeah.
He looks like his first touch looks a lot better. His finishing looks a lot better. He's getting a lot more shots away and on target. So hopefully he takes it into the season. And you know what? I want to see him start on Sunday.
Yeah.
Because Morata's apparently not fit enough to start yet, or start and play most of the game. So I'd like to see Michy Batshuayi start. I'd like to see both of them start up front really whilst Hazard's out.
Yeah.
But.
Do you reckon a 3-5-2 with obviously Pedro? He has come back into training today after the collision that he had.
After Ospina tried to kill him.
Well, okay. Let's. I think you need to kind of.
I can't let that go. Okay.
Right.
I know is my little Spanish boy.
I know that sounds incredibly dodgy. It sounds like you keep him in the basement and do things to him. Like, can you never say that again? My little Spanish boy. Jesus. If I'm going to be called Pumbaa, I think you know what to call him. I'm not even going to say it on a podcast because I want this to get monetised. But other than that, if we look at it, I mean, Pedro, even though he's back in training, the game's a few days away. He's not going to be sharp just enough yet.
I don't think he'll start.
You don't think he'll start? Hazard's out as well. Obviously, you've got Boga as an option. You've got Willian. But why not go the full hog and go 3-5-2 and try something new?
I think he's going to play if he does play a 3-5-2 and surprises us. I do think he will go with Fabregas behind the two strikers, and I do think he will start with, or maybe not. Maybe he'll play Fabregas in a deeper line role and play someone like Boga or maybe even Willian behind the striker because he said Bakayoko may be fit by Sunday. But I doubt he'll start, so he'll probably come on in the deeper line role, and then Fabregas may move forward. But you know, we obviously don't know what's going to happen. We'd like to see a 3-5-2. We'd like to see Morata and Batshuayi start together at some point during the season. We'd like to see Hazard feature in behind the two of them because I mean it would work really well in my opinion. And
when he's gone down the middle before though, he's not being at his sharpest. But anyway, we're digressing. We'll come back to this and talk about this.
Yes, we will. Anyway,
Preview.
So yeah, we obviously won that game 3-0, very convincing, well done. Then it kind of went downhill from there. Bayern were winning 3-0 at one point. We managed to claw it back to 3-2. Again, Batshuayi with another goal and Alonso with the other one. Nothing really special to talk about that game.
I disagree. I think it kind of showed that we were champions in England against the champions of Germany. I felt that we went 3-0 down, which was not good, but Conte on the touchline, in the end of the first half, Alonso battered in that goal at half time. Second half, completely different team showed up. Even though it was the same players, the mentality was changed. You could see that they wanted it more. And 3-2, I think it's a fair representation of the game because we didn't turn up in the first half. But the second half, I thought we played fantastically. Yes, it still wasn't our game, but we definitely turned up. We definitely gave more fight.
We played a lot better in the second half. And also, a notable transfer target that came after that game was Renato Sanchez. Now, that's obviously died down a lot recently, but I'd take him in the Chelsea team.
100%.
I don't know if he would start just purely based on the fact that we've signed Bakayoko, and I think that Conte would rather Bakayoko start just because, he's invested in him. But you never know,
35 million now is the modern
it is
15 million
But
pounds.
If you only got Sanchez on a loan, you can take a risk and not play Sanchez.
I think what we were lacking last season was a box-to-box midfielder. Sanchez
We've missed that since Lampard.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think we've missed a box-to-box. I think we kind of didn't miss him as much in that first season, that season he left, because we were remorphing, we were rebuilding under Mourinho. Obviously, Fabregas came in. He preferred Oscar Tomata, which was, in my opinion, wrong. Obviously, at the time, you trusted Mourinho, like you trust Conte now. He's your manager. He makes the decisions. He knows what he's talking about. But that everyone makes mistakes.
Everyone has those days.
Yeah, everyone has a bad day. But I think right now, with the revamping the system, if you went 3-5-2 or you went 3-4-3, you look at that midfield, you'd have Kante and Renato Sanchez. That would be amazing. And even though Renato Sanchez has kind of missed out on a year of playing, if he starts playing again, and he's only 19, he definitely has ability. And even though we'd only have him on a year loan, I don't know if there'd be an option to buy if we did get him. I feel that Renato Sanchez would bring a lot to that team, as well as squad depth. He's definitely someone who you can rely on.
He's definitely going to be leaving Bayern, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, Carlo Ancelotti came out, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, said he's not leaving. That, to me, is mind games, because it's been said a lot by managers before, and players have ended up leaving. It's the same with Alexandro. Allegri said that he's not leaving, but I reckon that's just they're playing hardball with Chelsea. They want to get more money out of Chelsea, and they're going to do that by continually saying that he's not going to leave.
I think the difference with Allegri, though, was Allegri said he's not leaving. The way that Ancelotti worded it, and I don't know if it might be me being optimistic, he said he will be staying with us to the end of the transfer window, doesn't necessarily mean he'll be staying beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, that might just be me being very optimistic here.
Yeah, you could be looking into it a bit, but I can see what you mean. I mean, the fact that Sanchez he wants first-team football, I don't think he's going to stay at Bayern this summer, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to end up at Chelsea. I think he'll end up at AC Milan, because AC Milan are literally throwing money at anyone at the moment,
but he wouldn't get into that starting 11.
But that's the question. Will he get into that starting 11? And I don't know if he would. Obviously no one knows until the opening day how preseason goes, etc. For them, how they he's a fantastic player. I would take him at Chelsea, but we've got a couple of solid centre mids. What we need now is reinforcements for if those centre mids, who are like players that are good enough to play in their position if those players are injured, suspended.
Sanchez is that player for me.
But I know what you're saying, but I think that we would have too many midfielders that are very, very good that should be starting.
Yes.
And that would be our problem. And then at least one of them, would be getting the hump that they're not starting. And then, especially when Hazard comes back, and if we do play a 3-5-2, then you've got Pedro, Willian and Hazard to fit in that as well as Fabregas, Sanchez, Bakayoko and Kante. Kante is obviously going to be a guaranteed starter because of everything he's done over the past year. He's run around the earth about 90 times and back again. So, he's
he ran
guaranteed.
To Beijing for that pre-season game.
He didn't get on the aeroplane.
He just ran. His legs can move so fast. Dash in The Incredibles. He runs across water.
Yeah.
So he's just like, N'Golo Kante is without doubt, there's something about, he's not normal. There's something there.
Yeah. He's a fantastic player. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Obviously, the link has died down a lot towards Chelsea now.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's not going to happen. But you never know. We probably might panic on the last couple of days and try and launch a last-minute bid for him.
But speaking of panicking and getting centre mids.
Well, we haven't even covered the last pre-season game yet.
We'll talk
about that in a second.
Blimey.
The last pre-season game, we'll quickly brief onto that and then go on to our panic buys.
No, I'm talking about this guy.
Oh, this guy.
Oh,
okay.
This guy.
Well, obviously, we lost 2-1. We lost 2-1 against Inter Milan. And the talking point of the game, from both points of view, was the own goal that Kondogbia scored. Now, it was absolutely fantastic. And obviously, we were linked with him a few years ago. We should just buy him, really.
Mate, if you can score goals like that, have him, yeah.
But the only problem is he might score more own goals like that.
Yeah, but it's a risk you got to take, mate. It's a risk you got to take in this game. It's like a game of poker. I mean, we were just playing it a few minutes ago.
No, we don't condone gambling, do we?
No, we don't condone gambling. Don't gamble.
We didn't play poker. We played. We played fishing.
No, but we played poker, but we played for M&Ms.
That's still kind of gambling.
We don't condone gambling. Okay. Basically, we were playing a game where you have potential.
We were playing Snap.
Yes, Snap. We were playing Snap. Well, to be fair, we have condoned gambling in the past, so.
That's true.
So maybe we were playing poker. Just chilling. It was no money was at stake. It was just a game. It was just relaxing. And you've got to take those risks sometimes. Sometimes though, you've got a chip which is black and blue with Kondogbia written on it, and you've got to go right. Gonna go all in. Kondogbia goes forward. Other options: Renato, Sanchez, Pellegrini from Sassuolo comes in for Roma.
God.
You kept Franck Kessié from. AC Milan, these chips go in and you just got to go, right, going to get these chips. But, you know what, you take out Kondogbia and you put in a bunch of English players which you're going to send to Vitesse instead. And then you just bring in Kondogbia to the Chelsea squad. I'm just rambling now. But either way, panic by Central. If we sign Kondogbia, we will be the joke of the season.
Oh, of course we will. I mean, if we sign some of the players that we've been linked with, we're going to be joke of the season anyway. It happened 2 years ago when we won the league and finished 10th. We were the joke of the Premier League because we didn't sign anyone, and it has the same ring about it. Saying the same essence of Conte wants to do something, and the board aren't trusting him. He's won the league, the league at the first time of asking, And what makes me think now is that was it actually Mourinho's fault when he went? When he got forced out, or was it the board
partially
not getting him his targets?
Because I think a lot. To be fair, I think a lot of people are to blame with that. I don't think it was just the board. I don't think it was Mourinho. I don't think it was just the players. I think all parties had a part to play.
Yeah.
And it's a case of the way that Conte's dealt with it this time, for example, the people that are causing problems in the Kennedys, the Costas, maybe not so much the Matiches, but obviously Matic didn't fit his system, but the troublemaker in Costa and Kennedy, who was causing problems, Costa was causing problems as soon as Conte came through the door.
Of course he was, because he wanted his way.
Exactly. They are going, and I think, Morata's come in, he's more of a good boy, you know, someone who's a team player, and Conte wants team players.
And he's worked with him before, so he's got that rapport with him.
Exactly. So I think Conte has been able to deal with it a bit better, where we've kind of learnt that, you know, we need to deal with these players in a certain manner. You know, we need to get them out if they're causing problems. And I can look at the squad now, I don't see anybody that will cause problems, really. But, obviously, when we were losing, these are players that were not used to losing. These are players that, you know, they come in. Courtois said he hated last season because it was the first season as a player where he hadn't won a trophy. And to be brutally honest, you know, if you've got the mentality, that may be something to question. But obviously, you know, I'm not looking at this negatively. This is me just looking at all the options. But I honestly look in that squad and think, we've got a manager here who has a lot of fight in him. He reminds me of a young Mourinho, where, you know, he doesn't go down without a fight. He's a bit more humble, but, you know, he will always fight for the team. He will not let people lie down. And that mentality is there. Like I said, in the Bayern Munich game, we came out fighting in the second half. He has a hold on these players. These players believe in him. He believes in them. There's a rapport between them. We haven't got any problems with the media. There's no antagonising going on between our manager and the media. The only questionable area is between our board and senior management, working all the way through down to Antonio Conte, and whether there's a lack of communication, whether that's something that would need to be reviewed and looked at in a long-term progress in terms of bringing longevity to the relationship between the manager and the board. I use really big words and I'm quite proud of myself. But, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I think that there is something going on here. I mean, where there's a lack of signing, there's not a lot going on in terms of pivotal movements for marquee players other than Morata. I don't really know about whether... Would you consider Bakayoko marquee? I mean, Bakayoko, Rudiger, they're great players, but I mean, Morata would be this summer's marquee signing, surely.
Well, if you look at it, going off of what you just said, if you look at it as a marquee signing, Bakayoko, I'm not saying he's awful, but out of the players that Monaco have sold so far, we've got the worst of the bunch. They've sold off Benjamin Mendy, fantastic left back, was proven before last season. You know, Bernardo Silva, fantastic again. Mbappe seems to be on his way out, reportedly, fantastic again. You know, Thomas Lemar, absolutely fantastic again. And Bakayoko seems to be the one that's kind of just made a name for himself last season.
Well, yeah, Lemar didn't, as it hasn't gone yet. That's the thing, but he seems to be on. I reckon if Lemar goes, Mbappe goes. But obviously we're talking about Monaco here. But I think in terms of just Chelsea, forget Monaco, I think Bakayoko is a good player, but 35 million now for me. And I know we have a habit of signing players.
Around
I think 30 million mark seems to be our average signing quota over the past few years. But you know, let us know down in the comments. I mean, do you consider Bakayoko a marquee signing? I think obviously we need to bring him in because Chalobah left. Rudiger we need to bring in because we need a squad depth and going into the Champions League. And Ake's left as well. But the thing, it's a case of, you know, Morata, obviously you had Willy Caballero coming as well, may as well cover the only other transfer we had. But I think in terms of the problem we've got with the board and Conte, the cracks don't seem to be appearing because he got given a new contract. The next day we signed Morata, basically. But, like I was saying this to you earlier, we were having a chat, it is almost like you go into a sweet shop with your parents. Like, 6 years old, I'd go to Woolies or something like that, or go to the newsagents. You'd pull in your mum's arm or your dad's arm going, right, can I have a sweet please, I want this sweet please, and literally to shut you up, they would get you a lollipop. It feels like that. It feels like Morata is that lollipop and they're just going to Conte and shoving it in his mouth and shut up. Like, here's your signing.
Here's the one you wanted.
But then there's the likes of Alexandro. I have various sources that I use, journalists and such that I've spoken to, and they've said to me, for example, we were in pole position for the Lukaku bid. He was the player that we were going after, and he was the player we were going to sign. But we took too long.
Of course we did.
And then we suffered the consequences.
Yeah.
He said his first choice was always Chelsea. Obviously, we waited too long. He needed to move on. He didn't feel that we could pull through. Man United came in. Offer was there. Mino Raiola obviously already has the existing contacts, as does Jorge Mendes. But that is why he moved to Manchester United. That is from my sources. Obviously, I'm not hung up on Lukaku. I'm not going to get into the whole Morata versus Lukaku debate. But Conte wanted Morata. He's gone, okay, if we not get him, I want him. Go get him for me. And it almost felt like that Lukaku thing was a kick for the board to go out and sort out a deal. But the problem is, it's almost as if they've relaxed now because they've got that deal over the line. We are short on players in wing-back positions going into probably... You know what? I think this is our most important season in a very few years.
Yeah.
I think last season was obviously...
a lot to prove.
Yeah. Last season was obviously the most important in terms of getting back into the Champions League, getting back to that top level. Now, it's about us staying there. And it's a case of, do we have the squad and do we have the depth and do we have the capability to get there? I feel we have the manager to do it. I feel we've got the great starting 11 to do it. We don't have the depth.
No. Well, as you were saying about the board, we've seen it all before. We've seen them not trust Mourinho as well. And I hate to keep going back to Mourinho because I don't like being hung up on Mourinho. Because Mourinho's moved on, we've moved on. But there's an everlasting example of it. Mourinho's wanted Pogba when he was at Chelsea. We didn't go for him. Like, it's just plain and simple. We didn't go for him. He wanted Varane when he was at Chelsea. We didn't go for him. He wanted Griezmann at one point when he was at Chelsea. He wanted Dybala at one point when he was at Chelsea. He wanted Bale at one point when he was at Chelsea. He wanted all these massive, massive players. And the board didn't back him. So we didn't end up signing them. Now he's gone to Manchester United and they've gone... Woodward's gone, you know what? We're going to trust you. You're a very good manager. We're going to give you all the money you want. Sign the players you want. And they've gone out and signed Lukaku. They've gone out and signed Pogba last year when Mourinho turned up. They've gone out and signed Bailly, Lindelof, Mkhitaryan, Matic. They've signed absolutely huge players for them. And, all right, Matic might not be the pick of the bunch, but what a lot of people don't realise is Matic got his best season out of Mourinho.
Yeah.
In his title-winning season, Mourinho got the best out of Matic. And now it's dangerous for us to sell him to United, which we already have, because Matic and Mourinho have that rapport. Mourinho knows how to get the best out of Matic, and Matic will play the best he can under Mourinho, because Mourinho utilises Matic to his best position, his best element. And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Matic, 40 mil, haha, we're laughing stock and all that sort of stuff." Manchester United are going to have the better deal at the end of it.
I mean, with Matic, for me, personally, where Lawrence was outraged, where others have been outraged, I personally feel for us that is a very good bit of business. Because there's evidently someone else lined up. There has to be someone else lined up. Yeah. You would not sell Matic and not have anybody lined up, because that would be stupid. I may be wrong, but put it this way. We brought Matic in for 21, 25 million that second time round, I think. It was in that bracket there.
Yeah, it was 21, I think.
Okay, so £21 million. Yes, we re-signed him. Yes, it was stupid. People said it was stupid, but you look at it in terms of what he brought on his debut against Man City.
Oh, he was fantastic.
He kept Yaya Toure in his pocket.
Who at that time, Yaya Toure was probably the best centre midfielder in the league.
Exactly. He kept him in his pocket. He had that good 6 months. He was amazing in that game against Liverpool. He was amazing against all those top teams. He helped end that run for City when we went to play them on his debut. In that title-winning season alongside Fabregas, unstoppable. After that, nothing special. I feel right now, the fact that we've doubled our money, we've brought him in, and now we have more money to spend, now it does not give them any excuses to go out and sign somebody.
No.
They need to go and do it now, the board. Marina, Emanalo needs to work with Conte and find those targets. He needs to get those players in. Obviously, the targets that we're looking at aren't ideal, apart from one, other than Sandro and Candreva. Out of the English talent that we've got that we're eyeing up, There's only one I would go for, and that's Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. And you have the money now. Yes, Arsenal are a rival club.
They're not going to want a lot for him as well. Let's face it. It'll be around 30 million because we love that price anyway. It'll be around 30, 35 million that we'll get for him.
I'd spend up to the 50 million mark on Oxlade-Chamberlain. Look, put it this way, okay? We need English players. He's a utility player. He fights for whatever team he's playing for. He works hard. He's everything that Conte needs in a team. He's absolutely phenomenal. And if it means right now we are 4 weeks, well, not 4 weeks, what am I talking about? We're a week away from the beginning of the season, basically. A week away. Right now, we have to go out and go, these are the players we need to sign. Get it done. That's all I have to say. We've got 60 million for Oscar. We got 40 million for Matic. What other fees have we got here? We've got 19.3 million for Ake, 5 million for Chalobah, 8.8 for Traore, 4 to 8 million potentially for Dominic Solanke. There is money in the bank.
Diego Costa, anything he generates as well.
Exactly.
Going out.
There is money in the bank and we need to go and use it. If it means we had to pay above the odds, that's the case. It's because it's close to the season now. The transfer window's drawing to a close. You leave it this late, that's your problem. That's it. That's why I'm saying pay upwards of 50 million.
It's taken so long to do it.
Exactly.
That more clubs are going to be wanting more money now. And that's where we've gone wrong in the Diego Costa transfer. Obviously, it came out whilst Diego Costa was away that he got a text from Conte, whether this is true or not, that he got a text from Conte saying, thanks for last year. You're not wanted anymore, basically. And Costa was like, okay. Obviously forwarded the messages to his Chelsea teammates. And ever since that story leaked, we basically were sitting on a ticking time bomb. Yeah. We were sitting on potentially what we got offered £90 million for Costa in January from a Chinese club. Obviously their window closed now, so they can't go in for him. But he's obviously said he wanted to go back to Atletico Madrid, which is fair enough. But we could have probably pushed out. If all of this didn't come out, we probably could have pushed out maybe 60, 70 mil for Diego Costa. I reckon, in the way he performed last season.
With the way he performed last season, if there was no worries, I agree with you. Right now, though, there is one club he wants to go to. That club is on a transfer ban. The clubs that are interested in the loan deal. You've got AC Milan, who are obviously looking into him. I think right now we have lost out on that completely. We bought him for 32 million. I thought 35 million in that bracket there again. We are going to lose money, but in the long run, I feel the money that we lose, we've gained through his importance in goals, we've gained through his importance in presence and his playing style, and how pivotal he's been to us over the past few years. Yeah. So, for me, it's a case of thanks for your service, Diego, but quite honestly, I love him as a player. I think he's fantastic, but at the same time, I'm sitting there, and there's times I sit there and watch him, and I go, come on, mate. Like, you fight. I understand you like to play on the edge, but sometimes you really push it out. And there's times I just want him to be there to score goals. And as much as he scores important goals for us, it's all in the first half of the season where he's there. And then he's gone for the second half of the season.
His head gets turned. Doesn't it?
Exactly. And it's been like that for the past 3 seasons that he's been with us. And I feel if we can get 25 million for him, fantastic. But we need to realise that we need to get money / get him out of that squad as quickly as possible, because I think the way Conte dealt with that, I don't think is correct. No. If it is true, I'm gonna go off. It is true. That's all I'm gonna say. If I'm pretending it's true and I'm looking at it that way, and I'm going in terms of man management skill, that is very poor. But he only did that because he didn't think he'd ever have to see Costa's face again, because he thought he'd have Lukaku through the door by that point, because he thought he might have had Morata. Morata is there now, so we have another striker. We've got another striker in Batshuayi. When Hazard's fit, he can play a false 9 there if we need to. So can Fabregas.
Fernando Llorente.
If we sign Llorente, we can get him there as well. If we do, everyone knows what my opinion on that. But either way, Llorente, if he's a third choice or second choice, that's fine. But, Costa right now is surplus to requirements. If he's training in exile, as he is, as it's the same with Matic, he's getting prepared for a move. So either way, Conte knows that Costa is out of that squad. And that is it now. It's just a case of we just need to deal with this in the correct manner. Now it's kind of been scuppered, but we have to just get him out, get him into a position where he's just playing football regularly. So when Atleti's ban is, like not allowed anymore. Not what's the word? What am I talking about? Disbanded. When their band's disbanded, they can then come in and say, "Here's the money. We'll take them off your hands."
Yeah.
25 million. I'm happy with that.
I reckon we could push maybe 30, but we don't want to push it too far because obviously then we're just going to end up with an unwanted Diego Costa who is agitated.
I would literally just, if someone came in with 25, I'd take it. No questions asked.
Yeah,
I'd have that. It's done. But yeah, I mean, obviously we've covered Costa. We've covered a couple of transfers out. I mean,
should we begin to scratch the surface on the 39 roundabout players that we have out of Chelsea on loan this season?
Just talk about having a lack of squad depth.
Well, the thing is, we've got about 7 or 8 players. This is where I think we've improved on our loan skills, if you want to call them that. We've got 7 or 8 players who are considered fringe first team. They are on loan at Premier League clubs this season. Now, it's good to see because they'll play against each other. They will play in squads that have good squad depth, mid-table teams.
Some that are fighting for relegation.
Some are fighting for relegation. And, you know, it's good to see because they're actually going to be fighting for their places as well. And it's within their reason as well. They're not, you know, they aren't world-class players that are at teams and they're not going to replace. So we can keep an eye on them. It's a shame that they don't play against us because I'd like to see how that would pan out as well. You know, remember when Courtois played against us when he was on loan at Atletico Madrid and there was that massive uproar, but
yes,
Atletico played with him and, you know, it was a good test because we saw how he played against a Chelsea team. And it was just good. It was good to see. It was refreshing to see. But if we go through all the Premier League loans, you've got Kurt Zouma. He's gone on loan to Stoke. Should be a good move for him. You know, they've got a lot of defenders, so it'll be good challenging time for him to try and get in first team football. Loftus-Cheek's gone on loan to Palace, so he's only down the road from me, so I'll pop in and say hello to him when I can. You've got Tammy Abraham, who could be the replacement to Diego Costa for next season if he bangs in some goals this season at Swansea. You've got Izzy Brown on loan at Brighton, which is good because obviously they've just come up. He'll add a bit more experience because he's been around, you know, Premier League champions before when we've won the league. He's been named in reserves and things like that before when we've played in games. So he's got the slight more experience than some of the other players in the squad. Casey Palmer's gone back on loan to Huddersfield. Obviously, he knows it there, so he did well there last season. It'd be good to see how he does this season when they're in the Premier League. So that's what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 to name you, and I think there's a couple more.
I think, and then obviously you've got some that have gone to other divisions. So you've got Pasalic, who I personally feel could have stayed in our squad, fought for his place, but he, despite having Croatian national caps, played at AC Milan, played in the Spanish league. He's taken one massive step back, in my opinion, and headed over to the Russian league.
He's just not going to get looked at.
No offence to the Russian league. The fans and whatever, you know, as much as the name they have for themselves, the quality of football is not as good as it used to be 100 years ago. So basically, you know, it's a big step back for Pasalic. I mean, he's going to start in those games, and he will be one of the better players. But, you know, I felt he could have challenged himself a bit more. Ola Aina going to Hull is a fantastic move. He's obviously dropped down the division. I thought when he played for us, he looked pretty solid. I thought he looked okay. But now he's going to be in a team that's fighting for promotion again.
Regular first-team football.
Very regular first-team football. Obviously, Robertson's gone off to Liverpool, so he may be playing at left-back, or they'll have players playing at left-back and he'll shift over to that right-hand side. And then obviously, we've had Blackman on loan to Sheffield United. Best of luck to him. I can't see him ever pulling on the Chelsea shirt. Hopefully he will, because it's always nice to see a youth player come through.
Yeah, he's from my ends as well.
Is he?
Yeah, he went to my school.
Did he?
Yeah.
In Croydon?
He was 3 years above me, I think he was.
Was he as tall as...
He was huge. Obviously, he was at Chelsea back then as well, and he was mad. Like, everyone was just like, oh my God, it's Jamal. Got him on Facebook.
Oh, sick. Nice. Yeah. So obviously, if you want to stop Brandon, you probably find Blackman. Probably shouldn't have said that. But either way, you got that. And then Bubba Rahman, after a pretty average loan spell at Schalke, they've taken him back. You know, I really don't know what to say about that move. I think he's not good enough to be a fullback in the Conte team. His final ball was fantastic, but he's not a winger. He's a fullback. And he could have played. He obviously played well as a wing back at Augsburg. I think he plays that position once or twice for Schalke, or they might have played 4 at the back, but, Bubba Rahman defensively is not sound.
He's not at the moment, but neither was Marcus Alonso.
Marcus Alonso was sound from day one. He was solid. He came on against Leicester for his debut in the FA Cup, not FA Cup, the EFL Cup.
What I'm saying is he had to train quite a bit and had to adapt.
Beside of Victor Moses.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He had to adapt to Conte's style, and you said he's not a Conte player. He could be with training.
No, what I said is he is a Conte player. He is a left wing back.
No,
he was a
just
left
now
wing forward,
about Bubba Rahman.
Oh, Bubba Rahman. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
he's not a Conte player.
No, but I think now if he'd stayed last season and offered us another option at wing back, then I think yes, there may have been that. But obviously Conte didn't think he fitted the bill. I'm going to back Conte despite previous comments I've made over the past couple of years that still get said to me every so often. I agree that he, at the time, it made sense to put him there. We obviously brought him in as a left back. He was 21. He was young. He just was too weak.
How old is he now?
I think he's 23. But he's not quite ready, and I think he needs maybe 1 or 2 more years.
He's 23, yeah.
I mean, what's his valuation on transfer market? Just for the sake of argument, if we were going to sell him right now, 6.8 million.
Jesus
and
Christ.
We paid 23. Enough said.
What did he say? What was he saying last season?
10 million, 12 million.
I mean, what transfer history? I'm not even going to bother with that.
Do you see what I mean? Like, this is a.
I know. Yeah, but if you're looking at it like that, then Marcus Alonso at the beginning of last season would have been worth about 4 million.
Yeah, but come on.
I know.
But look at this. You can't make this.
I know what you're saying, but you can't judge a player before he's played in a certain team. You couldn't judge Alonso before he played in that Conte team. You couldn't judge Moses before he played in that Conte team.
If you thought about it and you looked at it, and I was saying as soon as he signed, I said this is a Conte signing from the Italian league. Play as a left winger, a left fullback, a left back. He's already played in the Premier League as a centre back. He can play he can play anywhere down that left hand side. That is a Conte player. Bubba Rahman, as much as a bright prospect he was, he does not have that future because he's too weak. And if he comes back, if he's stronger, if he's much more defensively sound after this stint at Schalke, which is what loan spells are built to do. If he comes back and he's stronger and Conte decides to keep him, there's clearly something going on there where he feels he's capable.
Yeah.
Evidently, he is not capable as a player. So right now, Bubba Rahman is another player which is just going to go through that system and get sold on. Probably not even for a profit. I mean, these are players which I'm looking at. If I look at the list that we've got up here, Palmer, I think, under Wagner at Huddersfield, who has been very, very good at Huddersfield, who has been building something. Palmer has been part of his plans. Palmer may end up going there permanently. I think he's fully capable. Izzy Brown, I think he can be a big turn in that Brighton team. I think he can definitely offer something there. Abraham will be very important for Swansea. They were lacking goals last year, other than Llorente, really. Sigurdsson as well. They're those two. He is another option if they keep hold of both of them. So they now have more goals. So they're more likely to stay up. Loftus-Cheek, I think he's started being utilised as a box-to-box midfielder. So as he could potentially come into the Chelsea team, it may be too late for him now. But he can break into this team. Pasalic, I don't know now, because Spartak.
I think that may be the end for
Pasalic. I agree. I think that might be it. Zuma, I only hope he can come back because he was so important and he is such a good player.
I unfortunately think that's the end for Zuma as well.
Really?
I think that, having gone through an ACL injury, having gone through the mental battle of it, he was a regular starter towards the end of, before he'd done his injury. He was starting quite a lot under Mourinho, and he played very, very solidly. And he was, no one would want to go near him. With the ACL injury, you basically snap your knee.
You've had an ACL?
Yeah,
I have. Okay, you explain this.
Basically, you snap the ligaments that connect your knee and your shin together. It may not be your shin, but it's another bone. Your knee, it connects your knee together, basically. and the ligaments inside snap. Now what they do to replace that is they cut a hole inside your knee. They take some of your hamstring and they'll stretch it out, or your groin, and they'll choose either one of those two muscles depending on how strong they are. So for Zuma, I'm pretty sure it would have been his hamstring because he's a flexible guy. They would take that out, they'd stretch it even more, then they'd fix the bone back together by tying that together. So then, because they've taken muscle from your hamstring's already 10% weaker. Because you've obviously snapped your ligaments in your knee is 10% weaker. Then you've got to heal from that. You know, if he's had issues, which I had issues with my cartilage where my knee kept locking up. If he had that issue as well, he'd obviously have to have his cartilage trimmed down. I've hardly got any cartilage on my knee anymore, so you know he may have the same issue. And then after that, all in all, obviously about a year's journey, you've got to come past the mental battle. And if you're not strong enough mentally, you know, you've seen players like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who's gone through the same thing, but he's come back. Like at the moment, he was kicking a football after like 3 months, which is absolutely unheard of. But the bloke has the unreal mentality, like he's not human. Whereas Kurt Zuma, obviously he was young, he was playing regular first team football, and obviously all of that on top of him,
potential captain, I thought.
Yeah, exactly, and all of that on top of him, it's going to be a lot for him to handle. And you know, coming straight back into that Chelsea team, he wasn't solid. He wasn't as good as he used to be before that injury. And I think going out on loan is going to be good for him, but I don't think with the players that we've got now, Christensen being very solid
Rudiger
when he was at Mönchengladbach, Rudiger obviously coming in and playing under Conte, Luiz, you've got Azpilicueta who can play centre back and I think can be probably one of our next captains. You know, we've got a very strong core there, and I just don't think, unless Zuma impresses a lot this like loan spell, I don't think he'll make it at Chelsea. Unfortunately,
it's really sad to think that, but yeah, I completely get where you're coming from. But yeah, I mean, anyway, you know, the loan brigade as a whole, we're moaning about not having the squad depth, and I mean, we're just saying this now, but you're saying it is potentially the end of Zuma's Chelsea career. We're moaning about not having players in terms of squad depth. Pasalic could have stayed and fought for his place. Loftus-Cheek, I understand why he's gone, not quite ready. Aina, I understand. Abraham, I understand. Brown, Palmer, you know, these are players which I thought potentially could have stayed and hung about. I thought Pasalic is the player who could, out of all of that, all of those names there, Pasalic is definitely the player who should have stayed and fought for his place.
Well, when he played against Inter, he was quite. I know he only came on for like the last 7 minutes of the game, but he looked quite, you know, bright. Him, Masonda, and Boga stood out for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cuevas also stood out as well, and obviously he's gone on loan as well now. But there was a few players that in that 6 or 7 that got brought on in the last few minutes that stood out quite a lot, and they've got a future at Chelsea if we trusted the youth system. But
there are players that I watched in that youth cup final who are so bright. I mean, Loftus-Cheek.
Should we name some of them? You got Charlie Colkett.
Charlie was fantastic. Dujon Sterling was brilliant.
Tamori.
Mason was good.
Mason Mount.
He's fantastic. You know, these are all players. Ike is
he's
amazing.
On loan as well, isn't he?
He's great. Trevor Chalobah, I really love what he said on Twitter after Nathaniel Chalobah went.
It gets a lot of Chelsea fans, doesn't it? Because, you know, when you see players like that tweeting, you know, I'm going to make it after his brother had left, you feel sorry for him because you hope that they do make it.
This is a player, and Chalobah, I mean, people obviously know that I love the guy. Like I didn't have a favourite player at Chelsea, and I don't normally. If someone says who's your favourite player, I'm not. It used to be Juan Mata, because I always felt, you know, he was someone that as a kid I always admired for his intelligence, you know, his playing capability. You know, he was a player who I admired, but since then there wasn't really a player that I instantaneously took to and almost fell in love with the way they played. Nathaniel Chalobah, for me, and the youth players, they have a special place for me because, for example, when I was at that Youth Cup final, Chalobah, Loftus-Cheek, Masunda, and Abraham all came up to me and said hello, and they said, "Hello, Louis." So they understand we understand what you're going through as players, and we know that, you know, they appreciate content, and they are Chelsea fans at heart. They understand the club. They watch this, mate. They're watching you. These are players which understand the mentality of a fan. Todd Kane follows us on Twitter. He's not had an opportunity at Chelsea because of injuries. He was a player who could have come through. Josh McEachran. Dujon Sterling, for example. When I watched Dujon Sterling as a right wing back tearing up that right hand side, you saw fight in those players. Nathaniel Chalobah, Aguero goes in on David Luiz. First player over there. Puts him on the ground. Don't touch my player like that. Don't touch a Chelsea player. First player over because he understands the mentality. We do not have players that understand the mentality like he does. No. We have not had a player since John Terry come through. And for the past 10, 15, 20 years, we've been able to go, yeah, but we have had a youth player come through. I mean, look, we've got John Terry. Yeah, look, we've got him here now. Do we have that anymore? You look at every other team in the Premier League, there is at least one player who you know has come through the academy that can get in. At least one. I mean, it really hurts to see these players struggle and work so hard and they just don't get given the opportunity. Nathaniel Chalobah, if he had stayed, and I understand why he's left, if he had stayed, he would be playing this year.
Well, you know, the only good thing that comes out of this is now we've discovered a buyback clause. And we're putting buyback clauses on everyone now, which is a good thing. But, I mean, it means us buying back the player that we sold on. And it doesn't look good on us as a club to buy back a player for so much more. No, we were going rumoured to buy Lukaku back for so much more. Matic come back for so much more. David Luiz come back for so much more. You know, and with all these players going out, there's questions of, especially with Nathan Ake and Nathaniel Chalobah, you know, of them returning. You know, I think that Ake will return. Personally, I think he will return because I think that he's going to strike it good. He had regular first-team football at Bournemouth last season, and he impressed so much that we called him back. And we only called him back to help us through the last few games of the season. But when he was called upon, i.e. Tottenham, he absolutely smashed it.
He was one of the best players in that game.
Exactly. And, you know, Nathaniel Chalobah, all right, he may not have played much last season, but if he was given a chance, you bet he would have done something about it. You bet he would have played a lot more with a lot more heart than, say, Nemanja Matic did. Nemanja Matic loses a ball, he strolls back and waits for Kante to get back. Nathaniel Chalobah loses a ball, he busts his ass to get back. Do you know what I mean? And you don't have that, like you said, you don't have that a lot anymore because you're losing your youth team players. You know, you haven't got your John Terrys, your Frank Lampards, your Ashley Coles, your Petr Cechs, your Paulo Ferreiras.
Even though they weren't youth team players, John Terry would bring them through and say, this is how you do it. I understand Gary Cahill doing it. I understand Aspilicueta, and I'm grateful that they understand the club and love it as much as they do. And I know it's impossible to fill the shoes that John Terry's left. But if you want someone who's going to go to the youth games and understand what it means, the epitome of coming through that academy and saying, you put on that blue shirt, this is what this blue shirt means, as a fan, as a player. We're never going to have the luxury to wear it as a player, but I know for a fact that any fan who wears their club shirt, even if they are getting shtick constantly, they will always fight. And for me, fight, passion, obviously all of that, as a fan, as a person, I believe that if you wear your heart on your sleeve and you fight, that is a massive quality. Yeah. And I feel football as a whole has lost that. And players like Chalobah, like Ake, you know, these are players that understand. And they're not in our team. They're not in our team. And it kills me inside. I understand why we get Rudiger. I understand why we have Bakayoko. But those players that we've sold, because they don't have the experience, it's because we're not willing to put our necks on the line and give them that experience. Despite the fact Ake at Bournemouth that half season was one of the best defenders in that part of the league. Chalobah, when he comes on, fights. And there was a couple of times, he did put the foot wrong. That's because he wasn't playing regularly. You play him regularly in that midfield. You play him alongside Kante. You play him in that number 10 role. He will fight, or he would have fought. This is what does my head in. And there are players like Trevor Chalobah, like Dujon Sterling, like Mason Mount, like Charlie. They all work so hard. And they deserve an opportunity. If they get games in the cup like Conte is playing them, fine. If we get knocked out early, you know, that's just the case, unfortunately. But they're moaning about not getting opportunities. They would have had those opportunities this season. Chalobah, Ake would have played. Maybe not Ake so much at the back, but I know that Chalobah would have got in.
Well, that's what we were saying beforehand as well, you know. We have got 3 midfielders at the moment, and if Chalobah had stayed, he would be included in that, because you don't have many players left at Chelsea at the moment who can play in midfield and do a job there. Chalobah, obviously, he's come through the youth ranks.
Get emotional, it's okay.
Yeah. No, he's come through the youth ranks, you know. He knows the club inside out. Jody Morris is obviously can vouch for him as well. And what I think needs to happen more is for managers who come into Chelsea to look to Jody Morris, because he's played at Chelsea. He's been at Chelsea for a long time.
He knows the club inside out.
He knows the club. He knows the board inside out. If you're not trusting your second in demand, basically, you're second in charge, because he runs the team underneath, he feeds the players to you. If you're not trusting him and you're not communicating with him, that's a big, big gap. And I'm not saying Conte doesn't communicate with him, but if he doesn't and doesn't know how Nathaniel Chalobah plays, or he doesn't know how, I don't know, Ike Ugbo plays, and he plays Ike Ugbo one time, you know, then there's a big, big gap, and that leaves a massive, massive problem for our team. And that's why some of these players don't get played, because on the word of advice from Jody Morris, they would play. And that's what I mean. Like, if Bakayoko got injured one day, you know, we're left with just Kante and Fabregas.
And Lewis Baker.
Who
can come in and do a job.
You know, if Lewis Baker stays, there's still 4 weeks left of the transfer window. He still could go. Still, same for Boga, same for Masonda. Masonda could still probably leave if he's not guaranteed first team football. You know?
And I understand when Conte says, you know, you need to be patient, you need to trust the club. The teenagers, no minutes were given last season. And last season was the perfect chance to do it. It was the perfect opportunity. And I understand why he says trust the club. I understand why Conte says work hard, it will be okay. But if there's no proof of it, and players like Chalobah have been there and worked hard and tirelessly for years, they've gone out on loan, they've gone to other countries. I mean, Vitesse, I get now, you've got Chelsea players there, and you know there's a bed, but he went out of his way and he went to Napoli. He went to Napoli and learned a different style of football. And Chalobah was clearly, Conte is clearly a fan. He was clearly a fan of Chalobah, and obviously Chalobah said, if you get Bakayoko in, it's me or him. And he didn't say it to Conte, he said it to the board, and the board went, yeah, we'll have him then. What hope does that give to those young players?
And this is what I was trying to say, you know, like when I did the video of my rant, saying that, you know, these young players need to be trusted, and a lot of people, you know, jumped straight to the fact that Nathaniel Chalobah rejected a deal. Why did he reject that deal? Because he wasn't guaranteed football. He didn't care about the money, and we can't give that to them at this moment in time. And it's frustrating as fans. And, you know, we don't like to go on with all the negatives, but it needs to be covered, because you've heard my view, you've partially heard Louis' view, and obviously he's expanded on it now, but we're not saying that we're all doom and gloom, because we're not. A lot of people comment saying, you're all negative, you know, put some positivity into it. You need to draw out the negatives to find the positives sometimes. Yeah. And, you know, doing that, you know, the positives in this are, they have got buyback clauses. They are now playing regular first-team football, which is good for them. And if they are good enough, then by playing that regular first-team football, they will be back at Chelsea, because they have got buyback clauses. And if Conte is so much of a fan that he called Ake back and he kept Chalobah at the club last season, then he's going to be as much as a fan as to bring him back, you know? So they are the positives. But, you know, enough of us droning on about youth team, and we'll look forward to this Sunday, and we'll look forward to another possibility of some youth players making an appearance in our final pre-season game against Arsenal.
I mean, this is a kind of to bring back positivity. It's kind of one where it is the curtain opener for the season. I still consider it pre-season. I don't read too much into it, and I'm sure people will say that's what the losers always say. Even if we won the Charity Shield, I'll be there going, yeah, we won the Charity Shield this season. So someone said you don't win anything, it's a Charity Shield.
And I think that's the mentality from a lot of other teams' fans as well. Apart from one or two teams, Manchester United claiming they won the treble last year. It's a bit odd, isn't it? Community Shield, Europa League and League Cup.
To be fair, they won the Europa League and they won the League Cup. So for me,
that's a good double. But you can't claim the Community Shield as a trophy.
Oh, let them do what they want, mate.
But anyway, it'll be a good test. Like Louis said, it's the opener of the season, really, and it's a real insight into who's actually caught Conte's eye this pre-season, who's actually going to stay, who's going to play where. I'd like to see at some point Musonda play. If he doesn't start, I'd like to see him play. If Boga doesn't start, I'd like to see him play. And if Baker doesn't start, I'd like to see him play. I'd like to see Christensen start.
Yes.
Because I think Christensen has got a lot to offer this season. I think I'd like to see Azpilicueta start in a wing-back role because we haven't really seen that. And if we don't to go for a right wing-back, I think that we need Azpilicueta to be that first.
I think Rudiger will be the right wing back because he's played there for Roma on occasion as well. I think Azpilicueta as a fullback was good, but I think the one thing which everyone knew and you knew to rely upon for him was his defensive capabilities, and that's his strongest. Going forward, he's good, but he's not a wing back.
He's not quite Carling.
No, he's not quite Carling.
Other beers are available.
He is a defensive player in terms of in a back three. He was that mobile one who would do the sweeping up. He's ideal there. I think we found a position in terms of a 3-4-3. That's where he should go. Rudiger or Moses for that right wing back role, in my opinion. Cahill is a player which is potentially a doubt in that back three. David Luiz is a solid starter. I think he's club vice captain now, isn't he? Because obviously Cahill was.
Yeah,
he must be.
He is. He.
This is bad because I don't think they named the vice captain.
No, they did.
But either way, Luiz is a leader within the team, and he'll be there. Cahill obviously is split amongst the fans. I'm not going to say that he's
Azpilicueta's vice captain.
Azpilicueta's vice captain. Well, there you go. Azpilicueta.
I thought it was.
David Luiz.
It looks stupid.
There as well. So obviously,
I know what you're saying, but come up against the last pre-season game against Inter. They took Alonso off. They put Moses left wing back, and they put Rudiger centre back, and they put Azpilicueta right wing back. Now, that's the only reason I say I'd like to see him play right wing back, because I'd like to see him play right wing back against an English opponent and see how he would do and fare this season. If he's been trained more in a right wing back position this pre-season, then I'd like to see how he works there. If he wants to play Rudiger centre back, then fair enough. But I'd like to see Azpilicueta play at least some part right wing back, just to see if we don't sign another one, if he's capable of doing it over Moses. If he's not, then keep him in that centre back position. Don't move him. Maybe try Rudiger there. But there's no doubt about we need another left wing back to help, the competition of Moses, and hopefully that is Sandro. Fingers crossed that gets across the line. But we're kind of again moving off the subject a bit. Arsenal is a big game because it is basically the start of the season. It's the first. It's the first of 2 Wembley trips within 3 weeks.
Right, let's get into our pre-season preview.
Yes.
Pre-season preview, what I'm talking about. Let's get into our season preview. Pre-season is coming to a close, Arsenal obviously being the final curtain.
Yep.
So we face the final curtain. My friends, I see it clear.
Okay.
Da, 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 da.
Well, obviously we slightly touched on Arsenal. I think it's probably it's a big test. It's a big reveal for a lot of Chelsea fans because it's where does he start Christensen? Does he not? Does he start other youth players? Does he not? Obviously, we've touched on it, but I think that's going to be a big one. We then got Burnley at home. Last time we played Burnley in an opening game, Shirley and Fabregas combined beautifully for one of the best assists I've ever seen in my life.
Now, there was a player who fought for the shirt.
Yeah, Andreas Schürrle.
I miss Andreas Schürrle. He's gone downhill since he's left Chelsea, poor guy.
Yeah, I know. And I'd still have him at the club today.
I would as well, to be fair.
Because in times like this, he'd say, I'll play in goal if we needed a goalkeeper. And you know he would, because he's just some big tough German who took everything on the chin.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're getting away from the point again. We like to get away from the point, don't we?
We love it, don't we? I mean, that's the whole point of the podcast, to elaborate on points. Can we get back on it, though?
Yeah, sure. So, obviously, we've got Burnley. Then, probably the biggest game we will face for a few weeks.
No, because the week after we've got a tough game as well, to be fair.
Well, it's the biggest game we'll face out of the top 6 for a few weeks.
Yes.
Because then we've got Arsenal again about a month later, but Tottenham at Wembley. I think that's their first home game as well. I'm pretty sure it's their first home game.
Wow. Okay.
So we're their first home game. They're our first away game. I'm hoping that the curse of Wembley is still existent then, and we can just ruin them at Wembley. Then they come decent after that.
On a serious note, though, right? On a serious note. Do you think that curse of Wembley thing is a load of rubbish?
Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do. It's nothing to do with the curse of Wembley. I think it will have an impact on them because, Wembley is the prestigious ground where you go to play your semi-finals and finals of big trophies and you come to at the end of the season for doing a fantastic job of getting there. I think that will get in their heads because if they do go into cups, they're not going to make it as far because they're playing at Wembley week in, week out. The novelty wears off.
Yeah, well, I think the big thing as well is in terms of supporters, sound goes, and Spurs has good support. I'm not going to say they don't. I'm not going to slate Tottenham Hotspur. I'm not a football fan who does that. I'm just going to look at it from a fan's perspective. That's what I like to do. I like to be neutral. As much as I hate Tottenham, I think that
we hate Tottenham.
I think that the famous Spurs songs and all that sort of stuff. You cannot hear it. You can barely hear the tannoy in Wembley. Me and you have probably only just got round to it. We've been in there day in, day out for a year at uni. We can barely hear it. But, I mean, to create and generate sound in a stadium like that is tough. In modern stadiums, it's tough in general for us. When we move to our stadium, it's going to be tough. When Spurs move to their new stadium, it's going to be tough because it's not just built anymore for a single purpose. Football grounds... 20, 25 years ago, were built to be football stadiums. Now they are built for other purposes, such as concerts, such as potentially NFL games, such as having events, such as all that sort of stuff. So clubs and event teams in general can generate more revenue and have more cash flow. That is what stadiums are built for now. Bit of this, bit of dough, cheeky bit of moolah. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a case of, to generate an atmosphere is going to be hard for Tottenham.
That's why they found it hard in the Champions League last season because, it was hard to generate an atmosphere. And when you're coming up against these foreign clubs who are used to those sorts of atmospheres as it is, so they generate 10 times more noise in a smaller environment. So, because obviously Wembley is smaller than some of the stadiums that they've got out abroad, you look at Dortmund Stadium, it's huge. It's a huge echoey atmosphere inside, and so they create 10 times more noise to make it sound even better. So when they come over to Wembley, it sounds 100 times better and things like that, And that's what's going to be hard for Tottenham is they have got very good support. I worked at Palace last season when they were at Selhurst Park. Selhurst Park is rocking all the time because Palace have got very good support. But when Tottenham went down there, Tottenham outsang Palace and they were very, very good.
Really?
It was fantastic to hear. It obviously not from a Chelsea fan's point of view, but from a neutral watching football, it was really good to hear the two sets of supporters going at each other, and both teams looked up for the game, and things like that, and it's good to see that. But their fans are going to have a lot to live up to this season, because of they're known as a decent following. They have a decent following, and they're going to need to live up to that name when they come to their home games. Tottenham are going to need their support more than ever this season, especially because of the so-called curse of Wembley.
Yeah.
So hopefully they don't come out of the curse of Wembley
and we win the game. That would be lovely to hear.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be fantastic.
Music to my ears.
Yeah. And then obviously after Tottenham, we have another home game against Everton, which will be interesting to see how they do because they've signed a lot of young potential players. Michael Keane, Jordan Pickford. Sandro. There was Klassen in midfield as well.
He's not really young, but he's a good player.
Well, he's a solid player. They've got Ademola Lookman, who could be having a Lookman in the squad this season. That was a really bad joke.
That was dark. That's worse than mine. That is that was... No. You know what? No, forget it. Let's just talk about the game. Okay, Everton at home. It is going to be a tough game.
Look, we always have a tough game against Everton, and they're always entertaining. And
apart
a lot of the time...
5-0.
Well, a lot of the time, it's always a big, high-scoring game.
Yeah,
it is a lot of the time.
3-3 was the best game to see. That diabolical season, that season John Terry scored.
Do you remember that 4-2 that Drogba scored and Lampard scored 2 worldies from when we had that light blue Samsung mobile kit?
Christ.
The Umbro one, that was lovely.
I was at the 6-3 at Goodison Park.
Oh, what, the Mikel assist?
The Mikel assist.
The Mikel back
The first time.
The Mikelele.
No!
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
No, right. I've explained to you how this works.
And I've explained to you how this works.
No.
It's time for a change.
It's not time for a change.
Hashtag Mikelele down in the comments below.
No, you can't do it.
Yes, you can.
Comment. No, you let it ebb and flow naturally. Okay?
Mikelele.
No. The Daily Blues, the old days, me, Tony, Dan, Eunice. I was just a lovable rogue. Eunice was the host. Tony was the wise old owl, and then Dan was just like the numbers man. You know, the man who just kept us all together. You know, he was there. You know, the Lord Mikel was born on one of those fateful evenings. Okay, he was born, christened. Stickers then adorned the sides of Stamford Bridge and the away grounds as we traipsed through Europe and around the country. And then basically he kind of died a death because whatever. But he's still known as Lord Mikel. You cannot call him Mikelele. If anyone's going to have Makelele associated with him, it'll be Cantelele. But to be honest, I'm not going to make that comparison yet. He needs to do a bit more with his career, in my opinion. Makelele has a role named after him for a reason. But
it should
try and change something.
It should be named the Mikel role. End of story.
I'm not going to doubt Mikel.
We should just be called Mikel FC. Mikel is
now you're taking it too far. Now you took it too far.
Mikel is, and a lot of people go to me, why is Mikel your favourite player? Well, he's not necessarily my favourite player to ever played for Chelsea. You've got the likes of
Lampard,
Zola, John Terry.
He didn't get in your team of the year. Your team. Mikel didn't get in your team
because I can't exactly put him in.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't. You
bring him in on the 60th. He isn't shore it up.
That's what I'm. This is what I say. This is why he's my favourite player of recent, because Mikel, you know what you're getting. You get a player who shuts down a game, who boringly shuts down a game, but he does it so effectively. You bring him on in the 60th, 70th, 80th minute when you want to see a result out, and he'll do it for you. You know. And then he added the extra bonus of scoring goals for, once every 7 years or however long, And he was a rare player because, again, he loved Chelsea. He loved Chelsea, and it was nice to see that he never used to play, but when he did play, you could see he was enjoying himself. You see he was having a good time all the time, and he sat on the bench for a long time out of his long Chelsea career.
The one downfall I felt for Mikel was the fact that even when he became one of the more senior players, he didn't really live up to that role, in my opinion. I think, to be fair, Mikel was fantastic at what you're saying. Bring him on, he'll shut a game down for you. That was a fantastic role. Obviously, Conte, again, and Hiddink loved him. But, I mean, Conte didn't see him as somebody who would do that for us.
Did Conte sell him?
I think
Mourinho?
He went because Hiddink used him.
He went in the transition.
period.
Yeah.
So
oh, bless him.
Yeah, bless his little cotton socks. Lord Mikel. Lord Mikel, and it's going to stay that way. And I will abuse people if you do that again. I'll hurt you.
You already have.
Yeah, that's a good point. I already have. I like to, push out my authority.
We've gone off of the subject again.
Yeah,
right, let's just wrap up the last game, which was Everton. We spoke briefly about. It will be an entertaining game. I wouldn't be surprised if there's goals, and more goals.
Same.
I would like to see Morata on at least 2 goals at this point in 3 games.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see Batshuayi start at least one of the 3 games.
I want to see Batshuayi on minimum 15 goals by that point.
And I want to see Mikel in the stands watching the game.
Oh dear. But I mean, Chelsea Everton is going to have a lot of goals. It's going to be a great game. But anyway, just to wrap it up one more time, our games in August are Arsenal, Burnley at home, Tottenham away, Everton at home, and then obviously we go into the international break, which is going to be incredibly boring.
We're going to an international break already?
Yeah, there's always one at the end of August.
Oh.
I'm going to be going on holiday at that point, actually. I think for a couple of days. Because I haven't been on holiday yet this summer. Take a couple of days. Kind of see the Italian family.
International break is the worst thing.
But hey, do you know there's a positive in that? There'll be another podcast at the beginning of September.
Very true. Make sure you tune into that.
Yeah.
And if you did enjoy, guys, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you are new, because you're rubbish. You spoke the majority of this podcast.
That is I do the closing off. I did that the best. I invented it all. I do the best plugging. I taught you how to do it. Sit down, shut up, and let me teach you again.
I'm doing the beginning.
Fine,
and you can wrap the rest up.
Start again. Okay, go. Okay. But anyway, guys, make sure you subscribe to 100% Chelsea. All social links are down in the description: Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram. Again, new podcast, few teething problems, as you've probably been able to tell during the whole thing. But Brandon, what should they do to pick one of the 5 comments, or one of the 5 comments that are names?
Thumbs up. Thumbs up the favourites. We'll go through them. You can also tweet them to us if you are struggling to comment on YouTube, or you just don't want to make an account because you're lazy. That's fine. Just tweet us as well.
I was the same for years. But anyway, guys, if you want to do that, make sure you follow us on our personal accounts. Make sure you follow 100% Chelsea on its accounts as well, because they post some really good stuff. Subscribe to More Sports. Subscribe to my channel, where there'll be a weekly vlog of behind the scenes at 100% Chelsea.
Get to see more of my pretty face, and I actually talk a bit more on there than this today, because still loudmouth over here.
I'm very, like I said at the beginning, I'm very opinionated. Okay,
So am I, but I can't get my opinions across.
It's not my problem.
It is, because you abuse me.
I don't abuse you.
100% Chelsea abuse.
That is shocking.
I know it is. I've got bruises everywhere.
Oh my God.
Elbowed me about 7 times.
Well, I've elbowed you once when you were talking about Mikelele, which is blasphemy. So I had every right to do that. But anyway, guys, like I said, make sure you subscribe to 100% Chelsea. Subscribe to Brandon. Subscribe to me. Follow our Twitters. Follow 100% Chelsea Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, and its Facebook page. But guys, until the next 100% Chelsea podcast, to be named, TBC, to be confirmed, take care, and we'll see you soon.